Thanks for downloading a 3CR podcast. 3CR is an independent community radio station based in Melbourne, Australia. We need your financial support to keep going. Go to www.3cr.org.au for more information and to donate online. Now stay tuned for your 3CR podcast.
Evil minds that plot destruction, sorcerer of death's construction, in the fields of bodies burning, as the war machine keeps turning, death and hatred to mankind, poisoning their brainwashed mind.
Welcome to the Anarchist World This Week, broadcast across Australia on the National Community Radio Satellite. Listen to the Anarchist World This Week, Australia's sacred cow slaughterhouse. Listen to analysis of local, national, international events. Listen to analysis you'll never hear anywhere else.
Here we are, the Anarchist World This Week. I can smell something. And it's a national program streaming live on 3cr.org.au. That's right, it's the Anarchist World This Week. Do you wonder what anarchy is all about? No, it's not about unpleasant smells. It's about pleasant smells. An anarchist society is a voluntary, non-hierarchical society based on the creation of political and social structures which are based on direct democratic principles. It's a society where wealth is held in common and used for the common good. So if you're looking for excitement, beheadings, crucifixions, slavery, don't look to anarchism. If you're looking to an egalitarian community, sharing, caring, cooperating, mutual aid, you're the type of person we want. Okay, my name's Joseph Scone. I'm hosting today's program now. It's more of the same, isn't it? Every week it is more of the same. Here we are in the Anarchist World This Week, streaming live on 3cr.org.au, broadcast on the Community Radio Network across the country, more of the same. Now, if I was a comedian, which I'm not, I can't tell jokes, but if I was a comedian, I would think that the Abbott-led government would be the best thing that comedy's had going for it for decades. These are incredibly funny people, really funny people. We've got border protection. We have the biggest deficit almost in history. We have Joe Hockey, who's made it difficult for the rest of us Joes to hold our heads up in the community, telling us about tax cuts. We have extraordinary people, but unfortunately these people, as you know and I know, have no ticker. Yes, remember when I think it was Abbott said that Beazley didn't have the ticker to be Prime Minister. I could be wrong. But no ticker, no imagination, nothing. And I'm going to go through a little scene for you because this is what's going to happen in Australia in the next 3 months, and it's very simple. The Liberal Party will lose the Canning by-election in Western Australia. It'll be a 10% swing, but they will lose it because in West Australia currently they are going a little bit of an economic downturn. Property prices are actually falling, and in regional areas where mines are beginning to shut down, they are collapsing. Not falling, collapsing. Now, once Abbott, who is actually not campaigning in Canning, and I thought that was very funny, wasn't it? He sent down Julie Bishop, Malcolm Turnbull, they're all out there campaigning, but no Tony. He's too busy, obviously. Now, once the Abbott-led government loses the Canning by-election, Abbott will lose the Prime Ministership. Malcolm Turnbull will finally make his move and oust him. So it's in about 5 weeks you'll have a new Prime Minister in this country. Now, unfortunately for the Liberal National Party and the Alternative Liberal Party masquerading as the Australian Labor Party, the economic indicators are not good. They are not pleasant. And once Turnbull gets into office, he'll start yapping about marriage equality, a bit more humane treatment for asylum seekers, but there'll be no change in their economic policies. no change in their deregulation, corporatisation, privatisation and globalisation mantra. It'll be the same little blue book. But he'll be a much more wily opponent, and I expect that he will call a snap election maybe for late November, early December. Now, do I have a crystal ball? No. But I'm pretty confident this is the way things will pan out in the land of Oz in the next few months. If, by some miracle, the Abbott-led government wins the Canning by-election, and maybe God is on their side. There's a lot of people in the world who tell you that God is on their side. They are God's chosen people. Everybody else needs to be eliminated. Well, if by some chance God is on their side and they scrape in, he may bumble around till after Christmas, but it's quite obvious that by January, February, there will be a new Liberal Prime Minister in this country. So what's it got to do with me, boys and girls? You say to yourself, what's all this got to do with me? Well, it's got a lot to do with you. Because we have had one of the most incompetent, inefficient, ignorant governments since Federation. And Abbott's stamp is over all these policies. Let's start off with the asylum seeker fiasco. There are 3,000 men and women and children, or about 3,500 in Nauru and Manus Island, who've been there for 2, 3, 4 years. And the government is spending $1.5 billion a year. It's giving $1.5 billion to two large security corporations, Transfield and Wilson Security, who have the honour of overseeing a tent city in Nauru and a crumbling city, and I'm being facetious, on Manus Island. And we, yes, you and me, it's our government. You may not have elected it, you may not have voted, you may not, but in our name, we have seen some of the most atrocious things happening to human beings. Now, wouldn't it be simpler just to close down Manus Island, close down Nauru, give everybody a temporary protection visa and say, piss off, go into the Australian landscape, look after yourself? Simple. But no, we need, as a people, to create this fear of the unknown, fear of the other, fear of being overrun, in order to bolster the Liberal National Parties and the Alternative Liberal Parties' electoral credentials. Wonderful, isn't it? Let's move on. The economy. Now, those of you who are old enough to remember the last election, which I think was September 2013, if I remember it correctly, because I'm still wandering through the courts, currently in the Supreme Court, regarding that election and voting, but that's a different issue. So I've got a recollection of that September 2013. That was the last election. Now, as soon as Mr. Abbott was elected as Prime Minister, his first words were, we're open for business and we're in the midst of a budget emergency. And we need to screw all those who are in a position where they can't, defend themselves. Because that's the good thing about the Liberal National Party. They're really tough. They're really tough with asylum seekers. And they're tough with dole bludgers. And they're tough with those disability support pensioner, bludgers. They're tough with the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community. They're tough with those welfare bludgers. Really tough. But when it actually comes up to standing up for the nation, standing up for the people of this country against the biggest, most voracious, biggest cannibalistic section of the society, the corporate sector, it's, yes, sir, how high do you want me to jump, sir? Yes, sir, How far do you want me to bend over, sir? Yes, madam. What can I do to please you, madam? This is the reality. Every day. It hasn't changed. And it won't change with the election of the Alternative Liberal Party at the next election. It won't change. Because change doesn't come through the parliamentary system in this country. Because the power of Parliament has been usurped by a small number of corporations whose major responsibility is to create ever-increasing profits, irrespective of the national, human, social, environmental costs, to fill the pockets of their major shareholders. No such thing as corporate responsibility or caring corporations. Corporate loyalty? Give me a break. So we have these unaccountable corporations, both locally owned and foreign owned, who now dictate the parliamentary agenda. Fine. There may be, peripheral issues which parliamentarians are allowed, in inverted commas, to discuss and make decisions about. But when it comes to critical issues about how wealth is created, how wealth is shared, it's always about entrenching the power of that small section of society that owns the means of production, distribution, exchange and communication. It's their game. So here we have governments which are really governments in name only, governments who are willing to sign treaties with other nation states which allow corporations to legally dictate what policies a parliament will pursue. These people are a breed apart. And we have allowed this to occur since the 11th of November 1975. We have allowed, being aspirational voters, wanting the good things in life, we have allowed the deregulation brigade, all those people who say that if we remove all the rules and regulations, the corporate sector and business will look after people. What a load of crap. Currently, as you know, we're in the midst of a expose of 7-Eleven across the country. The corporate corner store that has taken over the corner store, that has bankrupted the corner store, that has made the corner store fiction. A franchisee. You buy a franchise, and the costs are so high to run the franchise that the only way you make a buck is by exploiting your labour force. And who do you exploit? The most vulnerable, international students. Bingo. 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 Where's the protection? Where's the protection? When you remove the regulations which protect people at work, we go back to the good old days in the 19th century in England where they used to send 4-year-old children down the mines to help bring out the coal. So all this deregulation bullshit, and it is crap, it's not about, removing regulations to protect people. It's about removing regulations which have been imposed through decades of struggle, through the blood, sweat and tears of working people to protect them, in order to allow the corporate sector to do what they like. Extraordinary. Then we take it one step further. This juggernaut, this privatisation juggernaut. We were told ad nauseum for the last 40 years that what we need to do is we need to privatise the mixed economy that had been created in this country, because private industries compete and prices will decrease. Lippy-doo, hippy-doo, yippy-doo, whatever you say. prices are going to decrease and services will get better. Well, what's happened with the privatisation of the Commonwealth Bank by the Alternative Liberal Party, the Australian Labor Party? Huh? What's happened? The only force that prevented the other banks exploiting people disappeared overnight. So it doesn't matter how much regulation you put in place to control these people, they have a monopoly, a licence to print money. Extraordinary. So who suffers? The consumer. You, little old you. Then we have the privatisation of the state, of most of the electric state-owned electricity generating facilities and distribution facilities. If you look at your bills these days, it's not about some, carbon tax. It's about how these privatised corporations dominate the marketplace and set the prices they want, irrespective of so-called government regulators. And we're getting people on pensions getting a $600, $700, $800 bill for winter electricity. And when you think that's almost 1.5 weeks' worth of social security benefits, where's the rest? Once you pay electricity bills and your rent, there's nothing left over to eat. You think I'm making it up? Do the sums. So we had state-owned assets which gave a return in the majority of cases to the taxpayer, that's you and me, the people who pay the taxes in this country, the wage earners, the 70% of wage earners who pay 70% of the tax take in this country, having to take it on the chin so that these corporations can continue to make extraordinary profits by giving away public services which were actually benefiting the community. I'll give you a simple example. Now, I know most listeners to this program haven't got private medical insurance, and some do. And up till about a year ago, we had a private medical insurer which was owned by the Commonwealth Government, Medibank Private. And it was the largest private insurer in this country. And it acted as a brake on the amount of money that you'd have to pay for private insurance. And it had some interesting packages which covered people for most of their out-of-pocket hospital expenses. As soon as Medibank Private was privatised, you like that? Medibank Private privatised for a miserable $5 billion. This was an organisation which was returning $100, $200 million to the taxpayer every year and providing a service and taking pressure off the public hospital sector. As soon as it was privatised, all the interesting packages which benefited consumers, especially older consumers, disappeared, gone. All the contracts between the private insurance company now and the private hospitals tightened up. What for? To maximise profit to their investors. And we saw a 15% increase in Medibank's, the private insurance company's, market value as a result of squeezing the very people who took out private insurance for cover. And that happens in every aspect, whether it's gas, whether it's electricity, whether it's the banks, whether it was telecommunications, you name it, whether it was the CSIRO, and the list goes on and on. Once these state-owned assets are privatised, bingo, you lose that competitive force that they allow to bubble up in a mixed economy. Then you've got corporatisation. This is the 7-Eleven fiasco. What's corporatisation? And I'll go through it again because these are the essential elements. These are the raison d'etre for corporate capitalism. Corporatisation is when small business is ostracised, marginalised, pushed to the wall, by large corporations which monopolise various aspects of living in our society, whether it's the large pet barns which have now sprung up across the country, which have led to the death of the smaller pet shop, whether it's the growth of the 7-Eleven empire, which seems to have a lot of issues currently in terms of putting extreme pressure on franchisees, and who find the only way they can actually make profit is to screw their workers. And this is a real tragedy. You've got things like these mega hardware stores which have seen the death of the hardware industry, and it goes on and on and on. Corporatisation is allowing corporations, giving them the opportunity to dominate the marketplace and destroy their competition. And all those small businesses out there who keep lambasting their workers, think again. Why are you in such a difficult situation? Because you cannot compete against large corporations who pay voluntary taxation, while the tax department is on your back, but not on their back because they're too big. And then you've got globalisation, where you enter into free trade agreements, get rid of the tariffs, allow these corporations to do what they like. So, 40 years down the track, what do we have? What do we have in the land of Oz, the land of the brave and the free? What do we have? We have a housing market which has gone forwards as far as prices are concerned in leaps and bounds, not because of a need or a pressure, because there aren't enough buildings, and I'm happy to, debate that with anybody, but because we have taxation laws in this country which allow people with large amounts of disposable income to invest in the property market and receive a generous tax deduction through negative gearing, while there's no support for first home buyers in terms of allowing them to access the superannuation funds if they want to, in order to get the deposit to get into a home. Because the difference between having a comfortable old age and an insecure old age is whether you own your own home. Simple. Every statistic will tell you that. And then we have, we've got a situation where we've got a stock market which is now supported by the superannuation industry. Over 55% of all trading that occurs in the Australian stock market on any one day is a consequence of superannuation funds investing in the very system that exploits workers' labours. So we've got a stock market which is beginning to wobble. And it's beginning to wobble because the globalisation, privatisation, deregulation, corporatisation juggernaut has fallen in the Mariana Trench. And it'll never get out of the Mariana Trench. And if you're wondering what the Mariana Trench is, it's the deepest point in the ocean. There's a point in the ocean, the Pacific Ocean, which is deep as Mount Everest is high. So, and then we have an incompetent government, which thinks the best way out of the situation is to squeeze people. Not squeeze those rich people who use their superannuation fund in order to continue to make extraordinary profits and enjoy their retirement, while screwing those people, who won't have enough superannuation to, enjoy their retirement. But we have this situation where we have a government which does everything in its power to ensure that its corporate mates, those people who bankrolled its campaign, continue to make money hand over fist. And if you don't believe me, look at the records. So it's a difficult situation. Now, I could wax lyrical for the next 23 hours. I could do a radiothon, a marathon for the next 23 hours regarding the situation we find ourselves in. But you've got to remember that it's our fault. It's my fault. It's your fault. It's other Australians' fault, because we have allowed this situation to occur. We have allowed the corporatisation, globalisation, deregulation, privatisation juggernaut to actually dominate every aspect of our lives. We have allowed it to occur. And it's time that we pushed back. Not just in terms of electoral politics, but we pushed back in terms of organising, in terms of setting up parallel organisations in this society, in terms of setting up organisations which become a real threat to the status quo, a real threat to that small section of society that owns the means of production, distribution, exchange and communication. And we can do this now. We can do it right now. You don't have to wait till tomorrow or the day after tomorrow or next year. You can do it now. And if you don't do it now, it'll be too late. It's that simple. Because it's like, the old story about the frog. You turn on the water, the frog keeps saying, oh, this is nice, this is nice, this is nice, this is nice, this is nice. By the time the water's too hot for the frog to jump out of the pot, it's boiled. And that's what's happening to us now. Because on every economic indicator, this country is going back, whether it's record deficits, whether it's the fact that the public hospital sector, the public education sector, public infrastructure is going down the gurgler because there is no taxation revenue coming from the corporate end of town, that we still rely on the pay-as-you-earn taxpayer. So in this period, it's important that we fight back. Now, public interests, and I know you're bored, but I'm sorry, I'm going to tell you again. I know public interest before corporate interest was formed in April this year. We currently have 151 members. And the whole purpose of public interest before corporate interest is to put these ideas before the public. We are both aspiring, you like the word, aspiring to be a registered political party, as well as a movement which uses direct action. And we use, as a template, the experiences of what's happening in Italy and Spain and Portugal and Greece, where people are saying enough is enough. And they're looking at alternatives to the current political debate. Public interest is before corporate interest. It's not just about, changing, being elected to Parliament. It's about changing community attitudes. It's about rolling back 40 years of deregulation, privatisation, corporatisation, globalisation, claptrap. That's what it's about. Now, currently we have 3 branches, and we're looking to form branches across the country. There's a branch in Pipsey Frankston on the outskirts of Melbourne, and they're involved in a direct action, and tomorrow they will be outside the office of Bruce Bilson, the federal member for Frankston and also a member of the Abbott Cabinet and one of Abbott's greatest supporters. They were there last week at 11 a.m. and they'll be there on Thursday this week at 11 a.m. and they'll be there for the next month on Thursday at 11 a.m. So join them, bring a placard, join them. It's at 21 Davies Street in Frankston. And there, it's not just about highlighting the lack of interest in the public by this government. It's about talking to people about options. That's what it's about. They meet on the every second week at the Frankston Library, 5 p.m. They met last night on Tuesday. They'll meet again on the 15th of September. Now, the Pipsey Frankston has been instrumental in organising a keynote public meeting at the Wheeler Centre at 176 Little Lonsdale Street in Melbourne on Monday the 14th of September. That's right, Monday the 14th of September, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. There'll be 3 guest speakers. There'll be Rod Quantock, activist, satirist, speaker and entertainer; Joan Coxedge, former member of State Parliament and a long-time activist; and yours truly, Joseph Toscano. It's a free event. You want more information? 039 785 7079. And Pipsy Melbourne North meets every second Sunday at 1 p.m. at the Jika Community Centre in Northcote. Now, if you want further information, you can either ring me on 0439 395 489. You can go to the website pibci.net. Very simple, pibci.net. You can go to the Facebook page. Just put public interest before corporate interests on your engine and bingo, there'll be the Facebook page. You can go to any of the meetings. If you're interested in forming a branch of public interest before corporate interest, if you're interested in joining, now is the time to do it. And why now? It's simple. A little birdie has told me, and I have no reason to doubt the little birdie, that the Alternative Liberal Party, masquerading as the Australian Labor Party, the Liberal National Party, masquerading as the corporate party, and the Australian Greens will be getting together. Yes, I know it's a historic occasion, early next year, and they will be passing legislation to basically exclude minor political parties from the electoral process by 1, increasing the cut-off point for a membership of a registered political party from 500 members to 2,000, and by passing legislation which would ensure that if a candidate does not receive 5% of the primary vote, irrespective of whether preferences go their way, they will not be able to be elected to Parliament. So most of the crossbenchers who currently exist in the federal Parliament will no longer exist. So that legislation, I expect, will be out in March, April, if we don't have an early election. You know, if Turnbull doesn't call an early election. So we've got a short period of time in order to register public interest before corporate interest. We need about 550 members on the electoral roll, and as I said before, it's up to you. It's a great organisation, great people. You know, go to their website, give us a ring. Go to the public meeting at the Wheeler Centre, 176 Little Lonsdale Street in Melbourne. We are on track to register Pipsy by the end of 2015, and that's our aim. But we can't do that without new members. So think about it. Want to organise a picnic in your part of the world to get Pipsy known? Think about it. Get organised. Do it now. I mean, the whole purpose of Pipsy is a decentralised organisation. The branches have got total autonomy. There is a constitution, which you'll see when you do your application form. So do it now. Don't wait for tomorrow. Now's the time to become a member of Pipsy and become a member of an organisation which aims through direct action and parliamentary politics to change the direction of this country once and for all. Okay, let's move on. My name's Joseph Toscano. I'm hosting the Anarchist World this week. You're hearing the Anarchist World this week on your local community radio station via the Community Radio Network. This program is streaming live on 3cr.org.au. You can access the podcast by going to 3cr.org.au. You can ring me on 0439 395 489. You can go to the Anarchist Institute website, anarchistage@yahoo, or you can email us at anarchistage@yahoo.com. You can go to anarchistmedia.org for the website. You can write to us. Yes, we get letters every week, which we answer, to Post Office Box 20, Parkville 3052. A few other announcements before we continue. Don't forget, the West Papua Independence Movement Rent Collective needs new members. For the last 18 months, the West Papua Independence Movement Rent Collective has been paying the rent which is about $2,350 a month, to ensure the West Papua Independence Movement has an office in Collins Street at Docklands in Melbourne. This office, as I keep telling you, was instrumental in the West Papua Independent activists being able to organise a campaign, coordinate a campaign, which meant that for the first time in the last 50 years, the West Papua Independence Movement was recognised by a government body. The Melanesian Spearhead Group, the umbrella group of Fiji, Papua New Guinea, Vanuatu and the Solomon Islands, granted observer status to the West Papua Independence Movement 2 months ago. Now, we need at least another 20 members of the Rent Collective. At least another 20. And in order to whet your appetite, and in order to, keep this office going, because it is fundamental in terms of their ability to organise, there is a gathering on Sunday, the 13th of September, at midday to 3 p.m. There'll be food, entertainment, and reports back from the about the Melanesian Spearhead Group. So that's Sunday, the 13th of September, midday to 3 p.m. Suite 211, 838 Collins Street, Docklands. Normally, the gatherings are held downstairs. Just walk down the side and, hey, bingo, amongst the vegetables is a great meeting room, which the West Papua Independence Movement uses all the time. Now, if you want to find out what's going on, just go to dfait.federalrepublicofwestpapua.org. dfait.federalrepublicofwestpapua.org. Now, I think it's important that as many of us become members of the Rent Collective as possible. This is a small way. It costs $30 a month to be a member of the Rent Collective. That's $1 a day. 2 pizzas, 1 Chinese meal, a packet of cigarettes. That's all you need to give up to become a member of the West Papuan Rent Collective and actually have a fundamental impact on this independence movement, which has seen over 500,000 people die over the last 50 years in that struggle to achieve West Papuan independence. So I encourage you, whether you're a member of the Rent Collective or not, I encourage you to come along Sunday the 13th of September, midday to 3 p.m. 838 Collins Street, Docklands. So midday to 3 p.m. There'll be the Black Orchid String Band will be playing music. There'll be other entertainers, food, traditional food, and obviously speakers. So it's 3 hours. The whole purpose of this gathering is to get more people into the West Papuan Rent Collective. Have a look at their office. Talk to them about how important it is for this office to go along. For the first 18 months, it's been, first 12 months were easy, the next 6 months were difficult, and now we're actually at the pointy end of the situation. We need new members right now. So if you want further information, how you can become a member of the West Papuan Rent Collective, it's very simple. All you've got to do is put your money in any Commonwealth bank branch anywhere in the country. You can do it electronically. You can do it personally. You can do it anonymously by putting your $30 over the counter. If you want details about the Rent Collective, if you want to be on the email list, if you want to be on the postal list, give us a ring, 0439 395 489, 0439 395 489. Email me at anarchistage@yahoo.com, anarchistage@yahoo.com. All right? Simple. You can also write at Post Office Box 20, Parkville 3052. So there's 2 things happening. You've got the Rent Collective on Sunday the 13th of September, midday to 3 p.m. at 838 Collins Street in Docklands. That's if you live in Melbourne. And you can also go to the public interest before corporate interest at the Wheeler Centre at 176 Little Lonsdale Street in Melbourne at 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Monday the 14th September. And then we've got lots of other things coming up, which I'll bore you about. But I'd just like to remind you about the Reclaim the Radical Spirit of the Eureka Rebellion celebrations, which once again will be held in Ballarat on Thursday the 3rd of September. Thursday the 3rd of September, 4 a.m. to 10 p.m. Put it on your calendar. Look up the website, anarchistmedia.org. Look at the Reclaim the Radical Spirit of the Eureka Rebellion site and bingo. You don't have to pay any money. Come along. You don't have to ring anybody. Just join us. But if you're going to the dinner that night at the Eureka Stockade Hotel, and we've got a keynote speaker from the Ballarat and Trades Hall Council speaking about the relevance of the Eureka Rebellion to the 21st century trade union movement, well, you need to book a seat. Not because it costs you anything, but because we expect lots of people. And if you want to sit down, if you don't want to stand up at the bar all night, and you want to sit down and have a meal, bookings 0439 395 489 or go to anarchistage@yahoo.com. I'll speak more about that in the next few coming weeks. And don't forget, the 9th of October, which is Human Rights Day, Peter Norman Day, and if you don't know who Peter Norman is, well, again, look at the website. Now, we've got a lot of interesting, fascinating things coming up. But this is the Anarchist World This Week, broadcast across Australia on the Community Radio Network, and you can do it too. It doesn't take much effort, a little bit of organisation, doesn't take a lot of effort. You can do it. You can do it today. You don't have to wait till tomorrow. You can do it today. You don't like what we organise? Fine. Do your own stuff. But do it. Okay, let's move on. No tax reform. Well, we've talked about that. Let's talk about the nasty ABC and Fairfax media. Now, there are some pathetic characters in the current government as well as the current opposition. But I think the current government has its first salvo on pathetic characters. And Mr. Dutton must be one of the most pathetic federal cabinet ministers I've seen in a long time. I mean, and he's got a lot of competition. He's got Joe Hockey, he's got Tony Abbott, he's got Brandis, and the list goes on and on. But this boy is pretty good. He's pretty good in the pathetic states. Now, the Liberal National Party is starting to cry. They're crying because, they're really good at beating up people who can't defend themselves. Really good. And as we're seeing, when it comes to the big end of town, yes sir, no sir, how far do I jump, where do I bend over, madam? That's been their performance over the last 2 years. So it's no surprise that when sections of the government guild at ABC, very small sections, and sections of the Fairfax media begin to ask a few questions about the legitimacy of this government, that Mr. Dutton is pushed out of the cabinet room to deal with the threat. Deal with the threat. My God, these people have got a jihad against the Liberal National Party. Unbelievable. What have we been dealing with? What have we been dealing with for the last 50 years, 70 years, with the Murdoch-owned media? Day in and day out. Garbage in, garbage out. Day in and day out. Destabilising for 5 years the Gillard-Rudd government. Destabilising the Whitlam government. And allowing the CIA, to have their little coup. Come on. Grow up. Come on. They must be feeling the heat in there, in that cabinet room. All those leaks must be getting cold. They must be feeling the heat. Look, if you, like me, are pissed off with the Murdoch media, not just because they're hypocrites. On the one hand, they talk about dole bludgers, social security bludgers, and the list goes on and on, you name it. How these people aren't pulling their weight. When you actually look at the Murdoch, when you look at Murdoch News Corporation and 21st Century Fox, the two arms of the Murdoch conglomeration, the Murdoch juggernaut in the land of Oz, as well as the rest of the universe, but in the land of Oz, top of the Australian Tax Office watch list. Don't forget that when Abbott was elected Prime Minister, that Mr Murdoch received $886 million tax refund for shuffling a few pieces of paper, all legally, of course. It's all done legally. I mean, you don't need to do things illegally in this country if you're a part of a large corporation. All you do is you lean on the government. You lean on the opposition. Slowly lead them, say, excuse me, you know that little piece of legislation that all those protesters wanted? Well, we don't want it because it's going to make us look bad. It means that our profits won't increase. So all they do is they just lean on governments, and laws are passed which allow corporations to legally avoid and minimise their tax. It's all legal, boys and girls. Well, if you're sick of this garbage, if you're as sick as I am of all this garbage, Murdoch getting a tax refund while making hundreds of millions of dollars of profit, and 21st Century Fox paying 0.75% tax. I wish I could pay 0.75% tax, and I'm sure everybody else in this country would like to pay 0.75% tax legally. But if you're not a large corporation, you don't actually in the game, are you? Well, if you're one of those people, and there's a small hardy band of us, well, on the first Friday of every month, it'll be the 5th, no, the 3rd, the 4th, the 4th of September. 4th September, on the first Friday of every month, we congregate. That's right, congregate. We bear witness. We're not protesting, we're just bearing witness to the unpalatable fact that these people set the political, social, cultural agenda, and they do it by being total hypocrites, by avoiding their responsibility to the community. So if you're interested and you're in Melbourne, join us at Federation Square at the corner of Flinders and St Kilda Road at 11:30am. And at about 11:45, we'll walk across the road, down St Kilda Road, down to South Bank to congregate on what they claim is their private property, which it isn't, it's public property, the forecourt outside the Herald and Weekly Times building at 40 City Road, Melbourne. We'll be there from 12 till 1. You know, their private security guards will be there. Victoria Police may be there. You'll be there. What a great day. The sun will be out. Spring offensive. And if you can't make it on the 4th of September, we'll be there on the first Friday in October and November. But more importantly, what we do is irrelevant. We're just a noxious little mosquito which can be squashed with a finger. And the only way that this campaign, resist Murdoch's minions, parliamentary assault will be of any significance is if other people across the country take up the cudgel, take it up, put it over their shoulders and congregate around Murdoch's little empire. Because by bearing witness to the fact of the type of people they are, we have an impact. This is the Anarchist World This Week, broadcast across Australia, the Community Radio Network. So if you are in the city of Melbourne on Friday the 4th of September, join us at Federation Square, 11:30am. You can't miss us, corner of Flinders Street and St Kilda Road. Then join us as we walk across the Herald and Weekly Time buildings at 40 City Road, congregate in the public forecourt, show our displeasure. At least there are some people in this country who are taking the fight up to them. That's the way it is these days. So it's up to you, as I keep saying. We've got tons of things organised. And if you don't like one of them, you organise your own thing. Because, see, what we do in the 21st century, and I had a little lecture about this yesterday, what we do is we kind of, rely on flash mobs. We sit on our asses, watching TV, and if you're a bit more modern, you play the net and you press a button and you say like, and you do a petition and you race here and you race there and you have esoteric discussions about what happened on the 5th of November, 1922 in Fargaminda, and you think that's all there is to change, that all there is you need to press a button. Well, it's more than that. You want change, whether it's reform or whether it's radical change. We need feet on the streets. It's that simple. Feet on the streets. If there are no feet on the streets, nothing happens. Fine, the internet is a fine tool to get feet on the streets, as we saw with the border protection fiasco in Melbourne a few days ago, you know. But what changed everything was the feet on the streets, because they don't care what names you call them. They don't care how witty you are. What they care about is when there are feet on the streets, when there is a direct challenge to their authority. And that's why the Anarchist Institute is currently involved in all these struggles. We initiate many of them, we let them grow, get their own heads, and bingo. That's what it's about. It's about feet on the streets. And if there's no feet on the streets and no feet in industry and in offices across this country in terms of occupations, nothing ever changes. I mean, I'm involved in a few litigations at the minute, and I've always kept out of courts for a long time, and it's been really fascinating how you get the illusion that something is happening, when the reality is nothing happens without feet on the street. It's just an illusion, and it's a rich person's game. When you go down to the courts, you need to take, an armoured truck with you in order to pay the lawyers. $300 an hour, $5,000 an hour, $10,000 to appear for one day. Just the type of money every invalid pensioner, every disability support pensioner, every, wage earner has in this country. So although there are all these organisations which are created by government to look after your interests, when you go to these organisations, they go, shrug, can't help you. Your problem doesn't fit our terms of references. Oh, sorry, you've earned too much money this year. We can't help you. Legal aid, sorry. And the list goes on and on and on. And how do you think we all got all these rights, liberties and economic security which we take for granted today? Blood, sweat, tears. We're not asking for blood, sweat or tears. All we're asking for is feet on the streets. Get involved. Join us when you can. Thank you once again. And if you can't put your foot on the streets, think about joining public interest before corporate interests. Go to their functions. See what's going on. Support the West Papuan independence movement. And the list goes on and on. Thank you once again for listening to the Anarchist World this week, broadcast on the Community Radio Network. My name is Joseph Toscano. I've been hosting today's program. If you want a complimentary copy of this week's edition of whatever we're doing, just go to the website, anarchistmedia.org. If you want to find out about PIBCI, go to PIBCI, PIBCI.net. That's Public Interest Before Corporate Interests. You can write to us at Post Office Box 20, Parkville 3052. Go to the PIBCI Facebook page. Just put Public Interest Before Corporate Interests on your search engine. Bingo! There it is. Want to learn about the West Papuan independence movement? Go to their website, DFAIT, Federal Republic of West Papua.org. Ring the office, 039 049 9590. All this stuff's on the web. If you're not on the web, all it takes is a phone call. Give us a call, leave a message. I'll get back to you in the next 24 hours. 0439 395 489. Join things, get things done, because when you're dead, you're dead. And that's the problem. When you're dead, you're dead. And I haven't seen any dead people come back. Although I've written a lot of obituaries, I've never seen a dead person come back yet. So the important thing is to make the most of it now. You are the person you've been waiting for. We are the people we've been waiting for. Nobody else is going to do your job for you. You can't rely on the state. You can't rely on the corporate sector. You can't rely on the courts. You can only rely on your efforts and your energy. Thank you once again for listening to the Anarchist World This Week on your local community radio station. This program has been streaming live on 3cr.org.au. The program is podcast. You can access the podcast by going to 3cr.org.au. You can write to us at Post Office Box 20, Parkville 3052. Email me at anarchistage@yahoo.com. Go to the website, anarchistmedia.org, pipsy.net, see what's happening. If you don't like what's happening, form your own group. It's about feet on the street. Thank you once again for listening to the Anarchist World This Week on your local community radio station. Listen in next week to the Anarchist World This Week.
Evil minds that plot destruction, sorcerer of death's construction.
An analysis you'll never hear anywhere else. Anarchist World This Week, Australia's sacred cow slaughterhouse. 10 a.m. every Wednesday. Listen to the Anarchist World This Week for an up-to-date analysis of local, national and international events.
Poisoning their brainwashed minds. Oh, Lord, yeah.